Hi guys, so today we'll be carving this. So it's inspired by the cottonwood bark carving of like whimsical houses. So basically this is a style where they use the bark of a cottonwood tree, and this bark is most commonly found in like Canada because I guess the trees need more insulation. So the bark is like really thick. So like they carve like these houses and all these designs from like the bark of the tree. But since I don't have that, I'm going to be using some scrap of red meranti.
Here I'll start by drawing the design of the house on the workpiece. I'm using a marking gauge to get like different levels of the carving, so I get a better perception of like the different levels and the different depths of the houses. So it allows me to know where I can resaw with the hand saw. So according to those lines, I use the saw to chop down on extra waste, so I don't need to chisel as much. Now I use some standard bench chisels to break down the stock and remove waste, so I can follow those gauge lines that I made with the marking gauge and sawed with the saw. So the chisels allow me to define the shapes of the houses, and I'm using a C-clamp to hold the workpiece. Now I'm using my handsaw so I can make the shape of the roof. So I'm going to be making shingles in the roof, so I use my handsaw and chisels to define the shape. So sometimes with the chisel and saw it would scratch up the piece a bit, so I just put in epoxy and use my heat gun to dry out all. So I'm just using my chisels to break the stock down more, and I'm just doing a little more shaping. And with my handsaw I made like some stop or relief cuts so that like when I go further to a certain point the piece won't chip or like it won't snap. So I plan on creating like a waterfall, so I'm just using some drill bits to clear the space behind the waterfall. So I'm just using various sizes of drill bits. I go back to the chisels and then I just work on the shape of the waterfall and reduce its thickness. Now I'm using my rotary tool to make more details. This is around the door and I'm making like a stone pattern. Now I use a bigger tungsten carbide burr to remove a lot of material, and this does it quite quickly. I want there to be like some sort of balcony, so I'm making like the side door that will lead to the outside or like balcony space. I use the same tungsten carbide burr to clean out the space of behind the waterfall and the marks that were left by the drill bits and chisel. So before we worked on the shape of the ladder and around the ladder, and now I'm using my rotary tool to make like the rungs of the ladder, like the space in between, and I also cleared the space below the ladder so it looks more 3D. So now I'm working on the chimney that is going to be attached to the roof of the house, and I'm adding horizontal and vertical lines to represent like a brick wall effect. And now I'll drill out a hole in the top of the chimney with a drill bit, and it'll be attached to the roof with 5-minute epoxy, and I needed to make grooves and notches to match like the pattern of the roof. So I wasn't exactly sure if I wanted a chimney at the start, but then towards the end I felt it was incomplete, so I made a chimney to attach, and I'm really glad with how it turned out, and I'm glad I made a chimney.
As you can see, I also have added these stairs over here and here. So there was not enough material to carve a spiral staircase like this. So I had to make separate stairs with like some strips of teak, and I use teak to add like some nice contrast, so it looks quite good. Like
I kept on adding small details, so now I'm carving like a secret side door on the side. So I kept on adding details because I just couldn't stop adding details. And then speaking of details, there are individual nails in the shingles of the roof, so I drilled a hole the exact size of the nail, put in a nail, like cut it with a plier and put the nail in the hole, and then on top of that I put like epoxy to seal it in, because the pre-drilled holes were so perfectly sized, like there was no space for epoxy. And then after that, after all of this dries, we'll just grind it off with the rotary tool. So I'm using an emery board, and this will easily grind off the epoxy and the nails. So I attached like some rock shapes so it would slightly resemble the front main door, and I used 5-minute epoxy to attach them. This is the first coat of polish, and I'm using water-based poly. I'll add a few more coats of polish, but this is the first one I applied. It was just so rewarding to see the grain pop and come to life after I put the polish, and it's just so magical. I'm just adding more and more details because I just couldn't stop adding details. So I added like these small pieces to resemble like a fence, so like these vertical beams, and also like horizontal beams, like the horizontal slats between the vertical beams, and I glue them with wood glue. And I also added like some stain to the roof for like some nice contrast, and I'm applying it with a paintbrush carefully.
I also added more details, so I added like a rock carving, so it looks like there are rocks, as you can see over here. I added it basically where there was any empty space, and then over here on like this part I made it look like grass. So but otherwise there are rocks here.